дорогие друзья! Меня зовут Тимофей Кареба, и я являюсь издателем федеральной сети бизнес-журналов «Человек дела». Сегодня от имени бизнес-клуба «Человек дела» и инвестиционной компании Richness Realty я приглашаю вас присоединиться к интервью с удивительным человеком, доктором Прабхатом Поддаром. Доктор Прабхат является признанным мировым авторитетом в архитектуре, в той части ее, которая использует древние законы васту и геобиологии. Его проекты по-хорошему потрясают своей гармонией, знанием законов мироздания, соединения пространства и человека. И я уверен, что в этом интервью вы для себя откроете совершенно новые знания о мире, о построении, о том, как можно и нужно создавать здание, пространство вокруг себя и как это влияет на бизнес, на здоровье, на самочувствие, на гармонию взаимоотношений. Кроме этого, вы наверняка увидите и услышите интересные секреты управленческие от человека, который много лет управляет проектами и коллективами. Присоединяйтесь, будет интересно. Когда вы поняли, что через архитектуру вы можете влиять на большое количество людей, и даже не поняли, а прям прочувствовали, это было вот часто же бывает как озарение такое, то есть вдруг, действительно могу.
It started when I was 16 years old. And I came across a book, Psychic Discoveries Behind the Iron Curtain. It means Russia. And there they were talking about Kirlian photography and aura around objects, around living things, and of the pyramid. And the experiments done in Russia with the pyramid was that at 1/3 the height, if you keep anything, it doesn't decay. It will not spoil. It will get hard like stone. So the thought which came into my mind at that time was, in the pyramid there are 4 things: form, proportion, orientation, and the material that is used. Correct. So when I looked, I experimented actually myself, making the pyramid with cardboard and paper. And I found it worked. It had the effect.
Я все-таки больше спрашивал про то, что когда вы уже сделали 1, 2, 3 проекта и вдруг поняли, как-то прочувствовали, что, слушайте, они же влияют на большое количество людей. Прям вот как-то вот в душе вдруг сразу это проявилось.
It started with the idea that if a pyramid has this effect, then what effect has the building? Because it's form, proportion, orientation, and material. So how to find out what is the energy, good energy, bad energy, how does it affect us? So that was my research, how it started.
Это было в 16 лет.
Yeah, that's how the thought started. And then I started finding out, studying. I couldn't get any information as to any research done on actual buildings. So that is how, when I studied architecture, I tried to understand how energies exist in a space. And through the years of experiment and research, we found that there are 3 things: the body, the building, and the environment and the space. 3 things have to be in harmony. So the question is, how do we harmonize the 3? And in order to understand the spaces, we have to understand the body. How this body supports a complex system of energy. The same way, how the energy works in a building and how the building and the body interact. That is the science. And this knowledge was there in all traditions across the world. in Russia, in India, in China, in Southeast Asia, in Arabia, in Egypt, in South America. Everywhere this knowledge was there.
Но почему-то вы в 16 лет именно в книжке выделили для себя именно вот эти вот фотографии с эффектом короля. И вас именно они заинтересовали. Значит, вы до этого подсознательно уже искали. Вам это уже было интересно. Почему?
What I felt at that time was there's a lot of knowledge which people had in ancient times. And they've been talking about aura, they've been talking about energy. But after 2000 years, science is saying the same thing. So, how is there something in our ancient knowledge system that we need to look at and we need to rediscover in our present day life? And that's how my interest started. And I started looking at my own tradition. What is it that is there in my tradition that speaks of my body, that speaks of my energy? And as I understood that, as I experienced it in myself, in my own body, as I experienced the energy systems, how they work, then I was able to understand how it works in the building and how it works outside. So it was an internal experience first, before I could externalize it.
Почему мальчик в 16 лет именно на это обратил внимание? То есть у него уже был изначально, видимо, к этому интерес. Я спросил, почему был этот интерес?
It's very difficult to say why it happened to me, but I'm happy it happened because I think it helped me understand myself. It helped me discover my own tradition and my culture. And as I was saying, if we look at the concept of matrushka, the dolls that you have, yeah, one within the other. Now, it is a concept of dolls, but it is actually the way the human energy system is, one within the other. We call them koshas in India and Sanskrit, subtle bodies, envelopes around the human body. So we have Annamaya, the physical body, the Pranmaya, the energy, life energy body, the Manomaya, the mental body, the Vigyanmaya, the knowledge body, the psychic body, and the spiritual. So it is exactly what the Matrushka is saying, but in a form of a game for children. But it has very deep knowledge in there. So I feel that that question which came up in my mind at that age really pushed me towards trying to understand my own self, my culture, my country, and not only my culture and my country, but other cultures. And therefore, if I look at a temple or if I look at a cathedral, why do we have such high ceilings? Why? What is the need that people built so high when the human being is so small? It is because of the subtle bodies. So that when you go into that space, that is why it is called sacred. Because that space which harmonizes all our energy system.
В древнерусских традициях, которые сейчас по-разному стараются восстановить, тоже есть понятие энергетических тел, как и в древнеиндусских. Ну, в общем, мы старорусский и санскрит, они же похожи, это давно известная вещь. Так вот, в древнерусском понимании печь, от которой начинали строить дом. Сначала же делали фундамент под печь, потом саму печь, потом только дом вокруг строили. Почему и говорили, будем скакать от печки, да? Печь была продолжением тела хозяина семьи. Делался высокий фундамент под печь. А этот фундамент забирался, ну, так, на коленках вставал, там, ну, почти как на 4 костях, вставал вот этот вот глава семьи. Вокруг него представляли пространство, выставляли кирпичи, и это становилось топкой печи, огромной топкой печи. Он вылезал, и тогда строили печь. И печь была продолжением, следующим телом главы семьи. Это было и энергетически, и чисто практически, потому что каждый день баню топить не будешь, а если ты в поле поработал, ты пришел, залез в печь, там немножко омылся в печи, вылез, а печь топила супруга, немножко разогревала. Следующим телом считался дом. И дом строился не по сантиметрам и метрам, а по аршинам и сажениям. А аршины и сажения – это части тела главы семьи. Поэтому длина дома, ширина, высота мерилась локтями, сажениями главы семьи. То есть это было следующее продолжение тела главы семьи. И когда хотели показать, что этот род закончился, то дом разрушали. Или хотели помочь уйти из этого физического мира главе семьи, если ему тяжело было умереть, то дом разрушали. Или печь.
So that the connection between the house and the person is no more physically. In India also we had a similar system. Everything was based on the human body. So this was called the angula, and this was the next measurement was the hasta. Then this measurement was the pada. Right? So everything was based on the measurement of the person for whom the house is to be designed.
Значит, если человек, конкретный человек, строит здание, то его энергетические потоки, его мысли, они формируют это здание. Можно ли сказать, что здание, которое строится архитектором или хозяином, или главным строителем, по заказу чего это делается, чье это здание, чье продолжение, какого конкретного человека?
There are 2-3 things that we look at. First, the human body itself. The clothes is the first protection of the body. Then the building is the next protection of the body. So it is very important to understand this relationship between the body and the building, how that happens. It has to be ideally the master for whom the architect is designing to make that space suit that person, suit that master. And the builder is fulfilling the idea that the architect is doing to help the master. So the main person is the master, for whose happiness, for whose joy, for whose future, his finances, his relationship. It's the architect role to see that that space which is created brings him that happiness, brings him that joy, brings him that peace when he comes at home, when he comes into that space. But unfortunately, since we have lost this knowledge in time, in all traditions, in all cultures, we don't follow these traditions. But if we apply those principles today, it gives the same results. We can do any design, we can do any kind of construction, we can use glass, which was not there earlier. Small windows, small sizes. Today we can have big windows, big areas, make full areas of glass. So it's not so much a question of design and material. It's more a question of space. What is that space which we have created, whether that space is helpful to us or harmful to us? There's another factor which has come in today. The second aspect which has come in today, which is not a part of the old tradition, is technology. Problems brought in by technology itself, like electricity. Electricity, even though we have at 50 cycles per second or 50 hertz, it has a component of radiation which is in the range of gigahertz, 0 to 30 gigahertz. And that is not known normally. And that is harmful for the body because the cells of our body vibrate in that range of 0 to 30 gigahertz. Similarly, we have towers, mobile towers, which have come in 2G, 3G, 4G, 5G. So all this is multiplying the radiation problem. High tension lines going through the air create a high tension radiation which goes up to 1.5 kilometers. Tram lines, suburban railway lines, they all create high radiations. And this is another problem that technology has brought in, which we are not aware of. So our space, which is having its own issues of dimensions and materials and all, It's now further problems have been extended or blown up because of these other radiations which are coming through the space.
Хорошо. Все-таки возвращаюсь к вопросу. Когда строятся современные здания, это продолжение чьего? Потому что у нас много общественных зданий. Это чье следующее тело? Заказчика, бизнес-центр, жилой дом. Если мы точно знаем, что система выстроена как матрешка, 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 вот жилой дом, в котором продаются квартиры, или храм, или бизнес-центр с множеством офисов. Это продолжение чьего тела? Чьих тел? Какой личности?
It is impossible for us to prevent this radiation of individual bodies. Therefore, in olden times, people had individual houses, individual homes. There was not multi-storied housing. The multi-storied housing has started in the last 100, 200 years, 150 years. Before that, it was individual housing. Even if it was a poor man, he had a small house, but an individual house. So this problem of people staying one over the other, or people being together in one space, creates its own disturbance between the energies, between the subtle bodies. Therefore, when you go into a sacred space, your subtle body has the chance to breathe where it is being crushed in all the other situations. So that is one of the reasons why people feel like going into a space or going to nature or going to an open area near the sea or the mountains where your entire body can re-expand. So it is therefore the need of being in nature compared to being in a closed space is really the solution. To come out of that space, to go to nature, to be able to breathe again. So this is why now, for example, in Japan and all, they've started a movement that go to the forest. It is good for your health. Because the building is creating so much many issues that people are not able to heal themselves.
Для нас, в общем, не новинка, что надо выезжать, и все понимают, что выезжая на природу, человек действительно расправляется. Я спросил про то, чье это продолжение, то есть вот бизнес-центр построен, и чье это продолжение. Вот почему. Если компания хочет въехать в офис, который расположен в бизнес-центре, и если она заранее знает, чье продолжение этот бизнес-центр, чье тело, какими энергиями оно наполнено, можно от большой матрешки перейти к меньшей. То есть, например, если каждый бизнес-центр – это продолжение, суть вот этого заказчика, его личности, то можно подумать об этом человеке, кто был заказчиком, строителем, понять, кто он, какие энергии в нем ходят, и для себя решить, хочу ли я быть со своей компанией, хочу ли я снимать офис в этом бизнес-центре, если этот бизнес-центр есть следующее тело вот этого заказчика. Вот почему у меня был вопрос, чье это продолжение? Бизнес-центр – это чье следующее энергетическое тело?
There are two aspects to this. One is an individual nature of a person, psychological nature of the person, in terms of his interest, in terms of his business, in terms of his activities he does. The second is how the space will affect not only that person, but any person who comes there. So can we have that space in such a way that you or she or him, whoever comes, their energies are aligned, their energies are in the best position in the body, and therefore their subtle bodies are not affected by anybody's thoughts, anybody's emotions, anybody's physical issues. So it is very important to understand what is this subtle body and what causes this subtle body. So this subtle body is created by what we call an axis, a vibration. And in the Indian tradition, it is called a nadi. So if the whole secret is to align this, maintain it in our center of the body. And if it is centered, our energy field, our koshas, our matrushkas are all very strong and nothing can move them, even if we are 30 people in a room. These are what we call a very fine system of like fiber optics. You have light going at the electromagnetic waves going at the speed of light, transferring message, transferring images, transferring sound. So the same way like a fiber optic works for technology, the same way the Nadi system or fine tubes of energy work in our body to transmit energy, to transmit cosmic energy, earth energy, various energies in our body system. If I would like to give you an example as an illustration, there was a person in California. He had built 80 apartments, 80 in Pasadena. And for 3 years, he was not able to sell a single apartment in San Francisco. I'm sorry, Los Angeles. Los Angeles, Pasadena, 3 years, they were not able to sell a single apartment. So this friend said to me, I don't understand your science, but if you can do something with this, I'll believe in your science. So we checked out, found a lot of issues with various kinds of radiations, design problems, various things. We corrected, and there's a process of correcting it energetically, which we did. It took us 1 week of work with various people working together. In 3 months, they sold 80 apartments.
С самим зданием, со стенами, штукатуркой, дверями, окнами ничего не делают.
No, it was all a matter of harmonizing the radiations in that space. And once you do that, whoever comes, it doesn't matter who the person is, he feels his energies are aligned. He feels at peace, he feels at happy being in that space, and he buys. Otherwise, a person comes, somehow he doesn't feel comfortable. He says, no, I don't like this space. So what is that feeling which you get when you come into a space and you say, I'm happy, and you say, no, I'm not happy, I want to go. So if we can understand the way the energy works in that space and how that energy is aligning your energies, aligning this concept of axis within your body, and that is the secret of health. Mental, emotional, physical, psychic, spiritual health, all is connected to this alignment. So actually, this is possible for any space, whether it's shop, whether it's hospital, whether it's office, whether it's factory. In every space, once you harmonize the energy of the space, things turn around. Factories which are going in losses start making profits. So everything works once the harmony of the energies is there. To give you an example, in India, 2 years ago, we were working on a paper factory. This paper factory was running in losses for 25 years. And they were keeping it going because 5,000 families were involved, 5,000 people worked there. So they were not shutting it down. Even with losses, they were continuing. After we did the corrections, harmonized the energies of the spaces, building by building in the factory, in 1 year, they made up 25 years of loss.
Есть ли какие-то способы понять, что на неуспех предприятия влияет именно пространство, а не владелец идиот или сотрудники, которые пришли, потому что хотят просто получать зарплату, но не работать? Какие есть способы понять, что да, вот в пространстве что-то не то?
There are many principles which we need to look at. How the principles of the body, like when you're looking at a human body, we are seeing a total person, but he has also a mental energy, an emotional energy, a physical energy, a psychic energy, which is the total body. So these are different energies, they're different qualities of energies. Our mind is not the same energy as my emotions, as my fear or love or my anger. It's not the same emotion as my thought or as my intuition. Right? So these are different levels of vibrations, different types of energies. Now, in a building, there are also these types of energies which affect my mind, which affect my emotions, which affect my physical body, my physical legs energy. So if these are not working in harmony with each other, they affect the body. And when they affect the body, even the best of the person is not able to solve the problem, doesn't see where the problem is. So if you're able to align those systems, if you're able to harmonize your energy systems, then your thoughts give you the right decisions, your emotions work the right way. Not only you, but everybody in that space works in the right way. So it's a matter of how your individual body energies are affected by the space. So that is the whole science of ancient knowledge system, whether we use Shaizen, whether we use Vastu, is how you bring about the harmony of the space.
Человек бессилен, он самостоятельно не может увидеть дисгармонию в пространстве, вот понять, что именно оно в основном влияет на там, несовершенство его бизнеса, что надо сказать, вот надо менять офис, он сам это не может прочувствовать и понять.
Basically, when you find a lot of issues, you're putting a lot of effort, but things are not moving. Your finances, bringing in finances, but you're not getting results. So it shows to people there's some kind of blockage which is not allowing their progress to happen in spite of all the efforts they put in. So this is where, if you understand the working of these energies and you remove those blockages or you correct those blockages, things start flowing and the results start coming.
Я вот и спрашиваю, неужели нет никаких способов самостоятельно самим это увидеть, что есть дисгармония или блоки в пространстве? Ну, должно же быть хотя бы там 3-5 простых способов, которые доступны любому руководителю или владельцу предприятия, чтобы он посмотрел на здание там, фабрики своей или офиса.
One very simple example. In your factory, if your north, northeast, or east becomes the highest part of the roof, like a staircase or a lift, it goes up and it is on the east side and becomes the highest part of the structure, it will create a financial blockage. However hard you try, the factory will not run, always go into losses. And if you balance that area, that space on the roof, just with a pergola, the same height, slightly higher than the east, the problem gets resolved.
То есть все-таки какие-то способы есть самому увидеть. Можно ли назвать 3, 4, 5 таких вот основных, что не должно присутствовать в пространстве офиса?
One example, in a structure which is northern hemisphere of the earth, staircases should go always clockwise when you go up. Now, there was this factory in Bombay, steel making factory. So they were starting the project. We were looking at the drawings, and there were various levels of production which you had to reach. So they were planning various staircases, and I told them that please see that every staircase which goes up, see that it is clockwise. You go right, not go left. 6 months later, emergency call, take the first flight and come. 6 fatal accidents, 6 people died. So I was very surprised. Go there. They take me to the place where the accidents happened. I look around, 6, 7 staircases, all anti-clockwise. instead of clockwise. And I said, this is exactly what I told you not to do. So it can have very serious consequences. The energies are totally disturbed just because the staircase is going in the opposite direction.
Есть ли книга, в которой вы излагаете основные, какие-то ключевые фундаментальные принципы построения пространства? Можно ли ее где-то купить, скачать, обратившись к вам или в известный магазин?
I am in the process of writing it. The book part is complete. We are in the process of doing the final page layout and all. It will like two volumes of 600 page total, wherein I've said everything about my research, all the results, the designing principles, the energy principles. So there are a lot of different chapters in it. Not only the building, but how the landscape also is integrated part of the building. How the landscape helps our energies. How the landscape and plants and flowers nourish our energies. Not only with the plants themselves, but even with the vibrations of the flowers, with the smell of the flowers, like in aromatherapy. So all these things, if they are integrated in a building along with the garden, it gives a very different approach. So therefore, when you go to a temple, like in Japan, you have the Zen gardens, which help you for the meditation, to give you that feeling of peace and quieten yourself when you go into that garden space. So everything has to contribute in the design.
А когда вы лично столкнулись с Васту и поняли, что это ответы на те вопросы, которые вы искали?
It started in a very different way. In 1983, I was in Paris and giving a lecture on some research I was doing on different types of dome construction and designs. And there was a young group of architects who came to see me, saying that they were interested in my research work from the geobiology point of view. So this is the first time I heard about geobiology. And I asked them, what is this you're talking about? And they said that after the Second World War, when doctors were going to patients to see them at home or in villages, they found that there were certain houses where whoever came and stayed developed the same health problem as the person staying there earlier. And this came to be known as the sick building syndrome. And they tried to understand what is it in a building that causes health issues or health concerns, and what is it in the body that gets affected, and why does it get affected. So this is how the research started, called geobiology. And they discovered whole radiations and patterns of radiations and series of radiations which are in the gigahertz range of frequencies, which are harmful for the body. So I came to the Indian knowledge system through geobiology, and I realized that the principles of Vastu and ancient knowledge were the principles of energy. And once we understand the two principles, how the energy principles work and how the Vastu principles are, they match completely. And I realized that if I applied the Vastu principles in today's life, I can handle the energy problems, the radiational problems, which Vastu can solve because of the various ways in which energy systems work, and the ancients understood. So by marrying the two systems, we are able to get excellent results. And that is why we don't have to break anything, we don't have to change anything. We just work on energetically balancing the spaces, which are, is it right with Vastu principles? It doesn't matter where in the world you are, because the human body is the same. So does that principle apply in your space? What is right with that principle in your space? What is wrong with that principle in your space? And once you correct the wrong, the rest becomes fine.
Такие вот положения или принципы Васту восхитили больше всего. Ох, неужели вот я никак не ожидал. Было ли что-то такое, когда изучали Васту?
The way I discovered Vastu was I met a traditional architect who was designing temples which follow Vastu principles and who is, from the tradition from hundreds of years, learning through father, grandfather, father, son, like that. So I met one of this person in a project, and he started talking about certain Vastu issues and Vastu principles which were not right in the project. So I tried to understand what is it that he's saying is right, or what is he saying is wrong. Why is he saying that this is not right, and why is he saying this is not wrong? So first I didn't understand what were the principles he was talking about. And then I asked him whether I can sit with him and have a session separately. And then that evening we sat like through the night, and he was explaining to me various principles of Vastu, how they worked, how they were applied, what was the tradition, how they learned it. And for me, it was like discovering a whole new world. Never known Vastu in that respect. So when I understood from him these principles, I realized that all the work for so many years that I was doing with geobiology were exactly the same principles I had come to as my own understanding. And it completely matched the principles of Vastu.
Что бы вы сказали современным предпринимателям, которые строят вокруг себя компании, строят вокруг, обустраивают свои офисы, собственные здания или которые они арендуют? С точки зрения вас, как архитектора, вот с опытом, связанным с пониманием энергии и пространства, на что им в основном обращать внимание, о чем думать, что пытаться почувствовать?
It's very difficult to say because they have to be educated in this field. Otherwise, they take an advice of a Vastu consultant to help them understand the energies of that space and how it can be rectified also. If they are, for various reasons, if they feel that business-wise this space is good, but there are issues, there are energy issues, then as a Vastu consultant, you can help them to harmonize the space. That is possible. So it is very important to have this understanding of this knowledge. See, in ancient times, there was this knowledge called 64 arts. And the architect had to master all the 64 arts. So it took 30 years of his life to study, and not 5 years or 6 years that we do today to become architects. So with that knowledge, which is not only a knowledge of his culture and all aspects of it, but also a knowledge of his own body energy system. Through yoga, through meditation, through various techniques, he has to understand how this energy system works. Because in olden times, there were no instruments. The body was the instrument. And through the body, they had to sense and feel what the energy of the land was, how the energy of the grids was, where the underground water stream is. So the Romans, the way they used to build, is they used to let the sheep graze for 6 months. And the animals, being sensitive to these energy grid lines of the earth, they would eat the grass with it and not along the grid. And so the picture of the system of the earth's radiation is understood on the land. And then they would put the walls on the grid and use the space within to live. So these things we have lost in time. But again, we have to rediscover this knowledge. We have found these ways of working. We have found these ways of the understanding of these grids and harmonizing their energies. So one of the works of Dr. Hartmann in Germany was the work that when you sleep on a grid line or you sit on a grid line for 7-8 hours, you have all kinds of health problems, cancer, tumor, various health problems. And we don't know in a building where the grid is. We don't know in a building where the underground water line is. So if we are able to find these and correct them, so many health problems are regulated. Your concentration, your work, your decision-making process is helped.
Ну, а сейчас-то тела все еще чувствительные, то есть можно как-то довериться ощущениям своего собственного тела, когда хочешь взять в аренду офис.
Yes, there are people. You still have people today who are very sensitive in their body. And I remember the case of this doctor in Paris, osteopath, 6-bedroom apartment we were correcting. His office was at one end of the apartment and we were correcting on the south end, and he was in the north end. Corrections we were doing here, he was feeling in his body in that other place. That my this energy system of the heart is aligned, my stomach energy system is aligned. He could feel in his body. An osteopath, we checked the energy of a person before doing the house correction, and then after the house correction, the person inside the house, and the osteopath was completely stunned. He said, we can't achieve this level of harmony in the body with all our knowledge, with all our various treatments and systems. It's amazing how the building can do it. And the best part of it, is what? Now the osteopath is going to his patient's house to do the correction. So that the patient, when he treats him, he can be perfect.
Огромное спасибо интервью. К сожалению, мы вынуждены его остановить, потому что приходят люди, вам нужно немножко отдохнуть. Я бы как-то, конечно, очень хотел продолжить, но не уверен, что это сейчас возможно. Я вам очень благодарен за ваши ответы. Было потрясающе интересно.
Thank you. My pleasure. My pleasure.